All right, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to make money with less time. Time management is super important when you're an agent. Lay down those rails of success with managing your time correctly. So many agents do this wrong from the very beginning.
Yeah, I would say 75% of our episodes talk about time management in some form or fashion.
That's right. So we're going to break off today and talk just strictly about that and how you can, effectively build a system, a process, so that you can filter all of your activity in and, again, make more money with less time.
Yeah. And I just want to put it on the record before we start the episode. I made a promise that I was going to get you your LED sign.
By the way, I want to say this on the podcast so that RL has to do it. So behind me, there's nothing behind me. He's got the cool background. I don't have the cool background. So he's going to put a neon, the agent bridge sign back behind me. So I'm saying it on the podcast, so now he has to do it. It's here, baby.
It's happened.
We got it. Look at
Boom.
that. Fantastic.
It only took me 23 episodes.
Welcome to the Agent Bridge podcast. I'm Brandon Baca, Marine Corps veteran and 15-year realtor, broker, and coach.
And I'm R.L. Hessen. I'm a Fortune 500 C-suite executive, real estate investor, and entrepreneur.
The Agent Bridge is the proven path to real estate success without the burnout. Okay, episode 25, how to make more money with less time. 5 key practices for better time management. I'm excited about this one. Like we were saying in the intro, it's something we talk about all the time. I'm excited to break this off and go, all right, here are the things that you need to do to make sure that you don't run into, time issues and double booking and, all the stuff that comes with being a real estate agent. There's so many tasks to do. There's so many things to do. And what I find is a lot of realtors, they're so weighed down with all the little bitty ticky-tack things in the business, and they never get around to building, the important things.
Yeah. And when as we edit the episodes and go back and look at everything, this one was kind of a home run in my book just because we talk about it so often. Right. Almost every single episode includes time management in some form or fashion. It's a step of the process, or it's something that's critical that you have to do, something that you have to consider, something you have to get better at. So I think this one is long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a foundational element to your business. Yeah. So, again, if this is your first time listening to the Agent Bridge podcast, we talk about a lot. If you are a real estate agent, you need to be thinking about yourself as a business owner. You run this business, and running or managing your time effectively is a foundational aspect. And I see that with, agents that are coming into this, that's typically the first skill that they have to level up.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not just business. I mean, I talk to my kids about time management. You could be a better parent with good time management skills. It transcends real estate. Just getting better at time management is just very important. Just
completely agree. And I like that word. It transcends.
Yeah.
Transcend. Yeah. It's for everything. Okay.
Having a good day today. I like to bust out the good words.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about, the first thing, managing your phone. And by the way, I'm incredibly guilty of not managing my phone effectively. So when I'm giving advice today, I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you guys. But we need to talk about it. And because the phone is one of the things that can completely derail you as an individual, you as an entrepreneur, business owner, realtor, whatever, right? It's so, it can be all encompassing, and we're kind of trying to get these dopamine hits and how many likes did we get on Facebook and all of this stuff. And so we've got to manage this effectively. The other thing is you're going to be getting calls and texts from people all the time.
But you do have a process. I always know if I send you a text and I don't get a response, I'm probably going to get one while I'm watching a football game on Sunday, because that's your cleanup time.
That's true.
So you have a process. You may not, it's not perfected, but it never is.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing about time management is everyone can always get better at it.
Well, no, that's a really good point, because people will ask me a lot, and I go, look, this is kind of a moving target a little bit, because you're going to have different, scheduling things at different parts of your career. And so it's always evolving, always changing, but you need to be paying attention to it. You need to be paying attention to how you're managing your time.
Yeah. And just having that process is super important. I mean, I would consider myself having pretty decent time management skills, pretty good time management skills, but I make mistakes. I forget things. I miss things. I, do things kind of later than I wanted to sometimes. It just, everyone can always get better.
Right. So just I want you to think about yourself leveling up as an individual, leveling up as a business owner. And with that phone, that thing can really take a lot of energy away from you, can take a lot of time away from you, can distract you from doing the things that are important. And this is that the phone is the thing that makes you finish your day and you go, did I get anything done today? And so we're gonna grab all of this information and share it with you, so that way you know it's like, hey, this is how I accomplish or feel accomplished at the end of the day. But one of the things that I have people set up initially is your voicemail and text responder. Okay, so your voicemail needs to tell people when you're going to call them back. Now, I know you may be thinking, it's like, I don't even listen to my voicemails anymore, or I don't even leave voicemails, or, but if you're going to be a good realtor, not everybody's going to be the same age as you. So some people leave voicemails, right?
Yep.
And so you need to check them. I've made that mistake before. I have, this is years ago, and I'll never do it again, but I didn't listen to a voicemail, and it was a referral client, and I missed him. So don't be like me. Make sure you're checking your voicemails at a certain time each day.
And these days, most phones, like, they do like the voicemail to text, so you can read kind of in general what it's about to see like the importance of how much you need to listen to it. So it's even easier now than it used to be. You don't have to sit there and like listen to the entire voicemail. You're getting the gist of it, and the text translation is not always the best, but you get the gist of what the voicemail is trying to say. So
yeah,
it's even easier than it was before.
So your voicemail recording needs to say something like, hey, it's Brandon with 10 Oaks Real Estate. Hey, I'll be returning calls between 11 and 12 and 4 and 5 today. So on and so forth. I use as a template for that, there's something called the perfect voicemail greeting. That's by an author named Michael Mayer. So again, set that up so that way you're instructing people and people have the expectation of when you're going to call them back. Because if you don't set that expectation up front, when in an initial client meeting or through your voicemail or through your text responder, you're always going to feel the pressure to return people's calls or return people's texts right then in the moment, which is going to pull you away from the really important thing that you might be doing.
Here's what you don't say, which this happened to my wife this weekend.
Oh.
I'm sorry I couldn't respond to any of your texts or emails because I was too busy with other clients. That person said that to a person that they were listing their house.
Yikes.
They were like, I'm too busy with my other clients. Sorry, I didn't respond to you.
This was a realtor.
This was a realtor to his client who he's listing the house.
Oh man. Yeah, that's
what you don't say.
Do not say that.
You set the expectation about when you're going to be returning calls, but you don't say, sorry, I was too busy with my other clients to get to you.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Yeah. Yes. If you set that expectation, then people know they'll know when you're going to call them back.
Yeah. That's a way to say it tactfully, not, hey, I was too busy with my other clients. Sorry.
Right. The other thing is you can do the text responder. You can go into your phone and basically it's like when somebody calls and there's like that little, or you can do an auto responder. Yeah. So for instance, like my Calendly link, like if somebody's trying to schedule with me, I type BCal and then it pops up and then I just send it. Yeah. So you can do that where you can say, hey, I return text between this time and this time. And I think sometimes you can set up automatic text responders, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So do that. I mean, there's going to be some variables in the way that you do it that fits you in terms of your voicemail and your text responder. Or when somebody calls you and you respond with a text, you can set that up too, where it has an automatic responder. But do that. Take the time to set up those automatic responses, so that way you're setting the expectation for the client, and it's going to make your life so much easier. Okay. The other thing, I have to do this. You may not have to do this, but I have to set up. I have a blocker for social media, so it's like an app that blocks social media during certain parts of the day. So if I want to get on social media, it's not a reactionary thing. Like I have to actually think about what I'm doing to get on social media because it's going to make me wait for anywhere from 5 to 60 seconds, depending on what my little score is. But I have to set this up so that way I'm not mindlessly getting caught up in social media. Because what will happen is you'll pick up your phone, you don't see any text, and you're like, well, let me just check Facebook or Instagram real quick. And then you get sucked into something.
Yeah, mindless scrolling.
Mindless scrolling. So
yeah, that's a real thing. If you don't know the screen time settings in your phone, learn them. This is not an iPhone lesson. We're not going to go deep into how to set up your iPhone, but screen time is a setting in your iPhone. You can use it to block yourself out of certain applications during certain periods of the day. I would highly suggest you learn how to use it. If not for you, for your kids. Use it for my kids so they can't get on things they shouldn't. And, you could use it for yourself as well. Personally, don't have that problem with the mindless scrolling, but it's a real thing. A lot, it's definitely worth a visit.
Yeah. So again, make sure you've got your phone set up to be a tool and not a distraction. Okay. Super important. All right. Number 2, do you want to take this one? You said you used to teach about this in the corporate world.
Yeah. Managing your brain. So the term you used in our show notes or whatever was that your brain's a Ferris wheel with task projects spinning on it, and it's just constantly running. I have a major problem with this. My brain is always on. It's always like constantly thinking of new ideas, and I almost feel like it's just endless. Like I can't get it to turn off.
Well, I mean, I think that's a thing with a lot of people. The reason I use a Ferris wheel is because, every once in a while, like what people will do is they'll be like, oh, I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that. Okay, I'm going to log it. And then they kind of go, it just spins around and they go, oh, I needed to remember that.
Yeah.
And so
when you're constantly adding things, like something's got to come out. Like it's
right. So you have to start writing stuff down anyway. But yeah, that your brain is constantly going and is popping up. And if you're in real estate, you cannot possibly keep all of the information or all the tasks or all the scheduling stuff, all the appointments in your brain. You can't do it.
Can't do it. And we differ on this first point, which is, writing things down on a planner or a legal pad. Mm-hmm. I'm not I don't like to use physical planners or legal pads. I understand the value of them, and there is something about writing things down. So I do have an iPad that I take physical handwritten notes on the iPad, but they translate into the digital world. I like to have my notes with me at all times, no matter where I am on a device or whatever. So I don't use that physical pad, but I understand why you do, and I like the one that you use. If you want to talk about it here,
I use the Full Focus Planner, which is done by Michael Hyatt. But it takes a little bit of time to get the rhythm of that, right? You have to learn that new skill. So a lot of times when I'm working with agents and they haven't been using a planner in the past, I'll say just get a legal pad, and start anytime something like you take it with you everywhere. And anytime something pops up in your brain, you write it down there. And the second thing I'll tell them is like, don't let it get past one page, right? If it gets to the end of the deal, then you have to basically rip that page off and then transfer from this to the new sheet of paper. And the reason is that it gets you to think about each task that you're putting and if you should eliminate it or not.
Yep. I mean, there's numerous studies done about how important it is to physically write things down and not just type it into a phone or whatever. And that's why I do use the iPad to do some physical notes here and there. But I have to have it in my pocket at all times. I don't like to have a planner with me. I know I'm going to have my device with me, so it just makes my life easier. But I'm also just a technology person. So
I remember when I was a newer agent and I had just gone full time, and I walked. We would have our sales on the board in the hallway of our office. And so I'd go out to the board and I'd look at each transaction, and then I would take my legal pad and just write things that I needed to do for that transaction because, I was like, there's all of this stuff. Like 3 transactions at the same time feels like it was like crazy overwhelm. And I had all of these things I had to do. So that's when I first realized I'm like, okay, I've got to keep this stuff somewhere. And so I would just write everything that I needed to do with that transaction and then develop that list from that. But
yeah, I mean, not every person's the same. Not that everybody's brain doesn't work the same way. Everybody's what works for Brandon doesn't necessarily work for RL, doesn't necessarily work for Anna Lauren or Andrea.
Yeah.
It's just everybody's brain works a little differently. You have to find a process that works for you. The most important thing is to start with something and make sure that it does or doesn't work for you, and then perfect it over time. Because you didn't just pick up a full focus planner and like everything worked perfectly.
No, it took me probably a year to master.
Exactly. So, I mean, you just, the point is get going with something.
Yes.
Start managing it some way and then perfect it over time to what works for you.
Can I tell you one thing that I know that people shouldn't do?
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is like, do not do this. This is an example of a very cluttered brain. When somebody goes, all right, well, this is my home planner, and this is my work planner, and this is my recreational planner, and this is like, these are the pad. I keep them on different pads.
I'm glad you said that.
It's a disaster.
We've talked about this specifically on a lot of podcasts. Is like everything that you have to do in a given day needs to be in one location.
Place. Yeah, I don't care if it's picking up cat food, or if it's, it doesn't matter what it is. You need it all in one place.
Yeah. My wife's very much like you. She needs a physical planner, but everything that she has to do, whether it's for kids' school, for herself, for her business, whatever, is all on one planner.
Yes.
In a physical format. And that it has to be in one place, because you're not going to check 3 different planners to figure out when to schedule this one thing that needs to be slotted in, because guess what? People don't care if it's business or personal. They just want to know when you're available.
Well, I think that's the thing, that the transition that you have to make mentally as when you become a realtor full time, you don't really get to leave. Like, everything gets all mixed up, right? You're like when you have a job, you can kind of go, all right, well, this is my job, and I clock in and I clock out and I'm done. Okay. But once you kind of get into that executive space, and when you're a real estate agent, you kind of get into that executive space where it's like, your work life and your life, they all kind of merge together.
Yeah.
And so you basically it needs to all stay in one place.
And maybe even more so, because when you have a physical job at a physical location that you go to from 8 to 5 every day, you're there. And people expect you to be there from 8 to 5, and you're going to be working in that environment. As a realtor, you might be at a coffee shop working, at your home, at your office, wherever, and you're always on.
Yeah.
So it's even more important.
Exactly.
So the Eisenhower matrix is something we wanted to talk about. I used to teach this in the corporate world. You've used it in your personal life.
Yeah.
But it's super important, because so many people work on the wrong things. Do things to stay busy, but they're the wrong things. And this really helps you determine what to work on in any given moment. And we start with not urgent, not important. What do we do with those?
We get rid of them.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, if there's something in your life that is not urgent and is not important, you should not do it.
Not at all. That's just straight up delete.
Right.
Then we move into urgent but not important, and we delegate that. We find someone to delegate that to. Now, when you start your business, maybe you're the person and you're the only person. You don't have any help around you. You don't have anybody to delegate to necessarily. But these are the first things that you would delegate when you have when it's the appropriate time to start the delegation process.
Yeah.
So keep track of this, because this is the first thing that you would want to delegate. So if you ever think about, is it time for an assistant? Is it time to start a team where maybe I have some people around me? These are the first things that you would want to find the appropriate person for. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then important but not urgent. That gets scheduled. That's not something that you drop everything and you do right now. You put it on the schedule. And we just talked about ways to do that, but you've got a planner. You use Calendly or whatever to sync up all your different calendars into one location where one set of availability is there. That gets put on the schedule somewhere. It doesn't have to be put in the next hour or 30 minutes. Find a place for it. It could be 2-3 days out, because remember, this is important to do, but it's not urgent. So there's no reason to drop it on your calendar right now, because things are going to come up that are urgent and are important, and you do have to drop things to do them. So find the appropriate place for the important but not urgent things, but they get scheduled. It doesn't it's not a drop everything. And then the last is obviously urgent and important, and that's just something that you make sure you accomplish that day. That happens that day.
Or
now,
Yeah.
because it's urgent and important.
So let's do examples of each of these, because I'm thinking about it. I don't have examples ready, but an example of like a not urgent, not important in the real estate world would be I don't know. I'm just trying to think about what.
Man, we should have come up. That's great.
Yeah. we should have done that before we started the episode. What's a non-urgent, not important real estate thing? Shoot, it's gonna come with. So what I think of on a non-urgent, not important is like a text from a friend. Right?
Yeah, like, hey,
Well, that's not really a great example. What were you gonna say?
Well, if you did get like a random text from your mom or something, it's like, hey, I'm just curious, like, what's my house worth these days? And she's not thinking about selling, she's not thinking about moving, she just wants to ask her real estate friend or son or family member what what her house is worth because she's curious. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say you delete that because it's not like you're not going to get back to them, but that's definitely an.
Yeah, these are hard.
Yeah,
okay,
we should have come up with
we should have come up with
this.
Okay.
Is a disaster.
All right, so sorry. Yeah, real talk. All right, so let's talk
You're
about.
gonna know though.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get something and you're like, man, I don't even have to do like that. That's like a total waste of time. Like delete it.
Right, just completely delete it. And then an urgent, not important thing would be, maybe we shouldn't go into these. We should be better. We should have done this before. But
oh my God, total disaster.
Yeah, just a disaster. Well, you guys know how much prep we do for these things. But like an important, not urgent would be, I would say like a buyer or seller consultation. Okay, so it's important. You want to do that appointment, right? But it doesn't have to be done right now.
Exactly.
Okay. And then an urgent important would be like, I need to write this offer because it's in a multiple offer situation.
And the expiration for their best offer in hand is in the next 2 hours.
Right, exactly. So that's something that you want to do immediately. So yeah, I'll be thinking about this. Maybe we'll come back to it. Anyway.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So the other thing is, I feel like you want to be doing, these high leverage activities. So what I say is like, you need 3 big things that you're going to accomplish for your business during the course of the week. Okay. So I call that your weekly big 3. And then what I do is I take those weekly big 3 and then I break them up into smaller tasks each day to a daily big 3 that's going to align with the weekly big 3. Now, they don't always have to be perfectly aligned, but there are 3 important things that you need to get done each day. And guess what? When you finish those big 3 things, and if you don't have any appointments, you can be done.
Yeah, you can. That's
Right?
the beauty of this
job. You don't
job.
have to work 12 hours every single day, right? If you're doing the most important activities, and if I could kind of go back and start this, I would say the point of having good time management is not so that you can fill up the open time with more things. The importance of time management is that you can create more margin for yourself, because that's when ideas can happen. That's when creativity can happen in that open space, that those things that can inspire you and get you to the next level in your business or in your life, or you have more time to spend with your kids, or you can take off and take your kids or go meet your kids for lunch or something like that. So The idea is not to fill it up with more things. The idea is to create more margin in your life.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of giving you credit for good points, but that's a good point. I mean, it's so important. Like the business of time management is not so that you can fill up your day with nonsense.
Yeah.
It is not that. It is actually the opposite of that, is making sure you get the important things done so you have extra time throughout your day to fill it with things you want to do or things you could do for yourself personally, like work out or, whatever. So yeah, it's a very good point.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought of a not urgent, not important.
Not thank you or just okay.
Sorry. My brain was working on what we messed up before. So I thought of a not urgent, not important. And that would be like a call from like a vendor that you've never talked to before, like a cold call from a vendor.
Great example.
So that's like, you just don't do that at all.
Yeah.
Right. Just, if at some point they'll get back with you. If they're really important, if they're really interested in getting your business, they're going to follow up.
Have you ever got those texts? It's like, hey, I work with members of NAR to give you health insurance quotes.
You mean like every single day? I get that
Delete.
text. Delete. That's a not urgent.
How do we not think about that before?
Yeah, there you go. All right. Okay, so again, back to you. So 3 big rocks for the week, and then align those daily big 3 with those 3 big rocks for the week. Again, if you're using the full focus planner, this is all a part of that process. Okay, the other thing is eliminating decisions. There are so many decisions you have to make, or you can only make like 25 decisions a day before you have burnout. So if you've ever gotten married and you have a wedding, that's where people burn out, is they're having to make so many decisions. And you get to a place in this where you're like, just whatever. Like they're like, well, what kind of silverware should we use? Or what sort of like, what color should the tablecloths be? And you're just like, I don't care. Let's just get through this. So that's why you have that burnout, because you only have that many 25 decisions. So for instance, like one of the decisions that I like to eliminate over the course of the week is what am I going to wear?
Yep.
So I pretty much like have a uniform. So I don't think about what clothes I'm going to wear for the day because that's a decision that I have to make.
Yeah.
So,
except for when you wear like 3 sweaters.
Yeah.
This one's so true. I mean, especially when I worked in the corporate world, and I would spend half the day meeting with like investors or board members or other executive members of the executive team, and I'm making decision, and these are like, in some cases, multi-million-dollar decisions that you're making multiple times throughout the day, and then you get home and like, where should we eat tonight? Like, I don't care. Like, place that has food. Like, I don't care. What should we go do? What should we watch, or what should we do? All this, I don't care. And you feel bad because like you're getting home to your family and like they want to know like these decisions that are important to them, but your brain is just overloaded.
I actually have to tell my wife, she'll say, hey, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? I said, I'm out of decisions for the day.
Yep.
Just tell me where you want to go.
Yep.
Anyway, she still can't tell me. All right. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this. Nah, she's not listening. Okay. So the other thing is,
people that know us would never listen to this.
All right. Your calendar. Okay. Incredibly important. Because if you can lay this down, your life is going to get a lot easier. Okay. So managing your calendar, by the way, this is an important, not urgent. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay. So everything needs to be on your calendar. If you've got daily pickup for your kids at school, if you have a dentist appointment, doctor's appointment, lead generation, every single thing that you do in a given day needs to go on the calendar. And so you need to actually, spend some time. I spend time with my calendar every single morning. It's one of the first things that I do because a lot of people are trying to keep in their mind like what they've got going on for the day. And I don't know if you're like this or not. I don't have to think about what I'm going to do the next day because I planned that day a week or 2 weeks ago. And so I just wake up and see what I've got going on for the day.
Yeah. It's the last thing I look at before I go to bed and the first thing I look at when I get up. Just a quick, right before I go to sleep, excuse me, just a quick like, hey, what have I got to do tomorrow? And then when I wake up, I take another fresh look at it. And yeah, and I'm not adding stuff to it. I'm just taking a look at what the day's going to look like.
Do you need to plug in your computer?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right. So, again, it's like, every single thing needs to go on your calendar. Okay. Do not, when somebody calls you and says, hey, can we go grab dinner this night? Can we, can you meet me for this appointment? Can we connect on this or that or whatever? Do not agree to anything without reviewing your calendar.
That's right.
Okay. So, one of the things that I'll say is like, let me review let me look at the calendar and I'll be back in touch with you. Right. Cause I might be out and I'm not going to do that right at the moment sometimes. So I had like somebody last week said, hey, I need to reschedule from Tuesday to Thursday. I said, not a problem. I said, I'll look at my calendar and tell you what time I'm available. So that's a completely acceptable answer, but that way you're not double booking yourself. And there's nothing worse than being double booked on something and you find out like 30 minutes before and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. I mean, it works the same way with you, that it works with my wife, that it works with anybody else I, transact with. It's like when you reach out to me and say, hey, we need to meet a realtor for this appointment or that appointment, I'm looking at my calendar. If my wife says, hey, I need you to pick up the kids this day, and I need you to take them to their appointment this day, I'm looking at my calendar. All of it all happens the same way.
Right.
Everybody who needs to book time with me, I take a look at the calendar, see where it slots in, and I give you availability.
Exactly.
Or just send you to my Calendly.
Well, right. And then what you'll start to pay attention to, or what you'll start to realize, is there are certain things that come up every single week at certain days at certain times. So when you are, when you kind of get to that level, what you do is you create your ideal week where you go, all right, this is the time that I do lead generation on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. This is the time, like we record this podcast, same time every single week, right? There are certain things that go in certain days. So that way you're prioritizing, and time management is really about priorities. You're prioritizing the most important things, and then everything else fits in around it. So here's why you do that. This is why you have to start living by that calendar, Google Calendar, whatever it is, because now you can create an automation. right? And I use Calendly. So when somebody wants to schedule an appointment with me, like let's say if it's a real estate agent that wants to schedule an appointment with me, I said, here's my Calendly link.
Yeah.
And they can just go find a spot. It's perfect, right? And then that way I'm not doing, by the way, a not urgent, not important task, like trying to find the right time to meet somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. So that way it's like, because there's nothing worse to me than that back and forth. It's like, well, can you do Tuesday at 2? No, but I can do Thursday at 4. Well, I can't do Thursday. That back and forth drives me crazy. It's just like, here, go take this schedule, and then you find a place that works for you.
Yep.
And that works out great. So you can do that. Think about that with clients where you can be like, hey guys, great. Looking forward to showing you houses. So here's my available times for the week. Find a time that works for you and we'll go look.
Yep. And it works for block time too. Like if you have a big project and you know you're going to have to be spending kind of more time throughout the day on it, block that time out on your calendar. Say every day from like 12 to 2, I'm going to put some dedicated time into project XYZ. But I'll caution you, don't just block time without an agenda of what you need to work on. And we'll go into that in point number 4. But you need to spend dedicated time working on whatever it is you're blocking time for, or else it's just going to become wasted, empty space.
Right. Okay, so back to the Eisenhower matrix. So not urgent, not important would be, I feel like we have to recover from that. Not urgent, not important would be vendor calls. Important, not urgent would be the back and forth of scheduling.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then we've got all four.
And you can delegate that. And then there's other things you can delegate too, right? Like if there's an amendment that needs to be done and it's important, but it's not urgent that amendment be done right now, we'll delegate that to a transaction coordinator.
Absolutely. By the way, rabbit trail. We've said this before. That's one of the first things that you should get is a transaction coordinator to help you with all of the back and forth. Some of the important, not urgent, and important, urgent things that can be delegated to someone who that's their expertise. And so many agents will say, well, I really want to do it so I can be familiar with all of that stuff. It's so much back and forth, and you're getting dragged into all of these like communications that are going to completely overwhelm you, right? And really what it is just, some scheduling back and forth, paperwork back and forth. You can be an expert realtor without having to do all that stuff.
Yeah. And same, it works like if you have an urgent item that needs to be done, but it's not like critical that it's you that does it. Same concept, like something that needs to be signed, get a transaction coordinator that can help with that, to track down signatures and whatnot.
Right. Okay. Number 4, Pomodoro. Okay. This is another sort of foundational element that I have agents establish, which is Pomodoro is you set the timer for 25 minutes on your phone and you do the most important work or the things that you need to get done on your task list in that 25-minute segment. And this is what you'll realize. With focus without distraction, you can get so much done in a 25-minute section.
Use this on lead generation. Use this concept on lead generation. You will be amazed at how many phone calls or text messages or emails that you can send in 25 minutes. If you just block everything out and say, for 25 minutes, I'm going to do lead gen.
Right.
You will be amazed.
And then at the end of that 25 minutes, you can take 5 and back off and then jump back in.
But what happens most often is you're in such a groove that you keep going.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that's exactly right. So set that timer for 25 minutes, focus, get rid of the distractions and just go. Okay. And if somebody's wondering, they're like, well, what about I have to use my phone. Well, guess what? If you've got a good CRM, you can make the calls through your CRM.
Yep. So
that's what I would recommend. Okay. Anything else on Pomodoro?
No.
Okay.
But it is incredible. It's so simple. I mean, it's just blocking out, all the distractions and working for 25 minutes. That should be simple. It's just the concept of just applying that amount of focus to it that makes it so successful. And again, 9 times out of 10, when you get to the end of that 25 minutes, you're gonna be like, dang, I got a lot done. Yeah. I'm going to go for 50 minutes or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. It gets you motivated. All right. And then the 5th thing is early work. And so I'll go in and out of seasons where maybe I have a heavier workload, and we'll get up earlier or set my schedule to get up a little bit earlier. So that way I can have those Pomodoros, maybe a couple of Pomodoros before my day gets started. And that can be a game changer, because if you're working when no one can get to you, you want to talk about focus.
Yep.
Now you're not going to do lead generation during this time, but a lot of times, like if you've got several transactions going on, or there's some sort of backed up communication or whatever the case may be, you get that like 1 hour of focus time when nobody else is, awake or whatever. That time can be super valuable.
You can't necessarily make the phone calls, but I will argue that you can do lead gen, and here's how. If you've got a good CRM, to your point earlier, there is so much data in there. If you're buying leads from certain sources or whatever, there's so much data in there that's very valuable. Like, are they looking at, your IDX website? Are they looking at homes? What kinds of homes are they looking at? How often are they visiting?
Yeah.
How much are they opening your emails? How much are they opening your text? All of that data can be mined while you're sitting there in front of a computer while people aren't bothering you, to determine who you might want to call for that week.
Right.
And what calls might be the most important to make, what would have the greatest chance of success.
Yes.
And that's all important work. It kind of feels like busy work because you're just going through your CRM, but it's super important because it can set up a great week worth of calls.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are even some software where if you need to send text messages for follow-up or whatever, you can schedule text messages to go out at a certain time.
Yeah, or creating voicemail drops, stuff like that can be sent out later. Like all these things that can be done to prep for lead generation for the week, that even though you can't physically make the phone calls.
Yeah, so that's just a good strategy when you kind of hit those moments where the workload might get a little bit of intense and you feel like you're running out of time. It really is just about an hour of focus that needs to happen.
Yep.
Okay. So anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay. So let's kind of just recap here these points. Okay. Number one, again, manage your phone. Number two, manage your brain. Okay. That's one where, again, the Ferris wheel, you've got to use the Eisenhower matrix, right, to find out what you should be spending your time on.
I've got a funny one on manage your brain. So I've got a few friends that actually have they have whiteboards or something like that in their shower, because they say their best ideas come in the shower, but they have nowhere to write them down.
Oh,
so they got these they say they got these whiteboards in their shower.
That's nice. Yeah, stick a whiteboard in your shower. There you go.
For managing your brain.
Number three, manage your calendar. Everything in your life goes on your calendar. Number four, Pomodoro. Make sure you get that focused energy, right, without distraction. And then number five, hey, if you get into the seasons where things are heavy, one hour a day earlier, get that work started, so that way you can get ahead of the game and make some things happen. Anything else you want to say about this?
Nope. I'm excited that we did this one. It was long overdue. We talk about it too often not to go into some detail. So glad we got this one done.
Oh, they'd get double booked. They get, they run out of.
We're doing a bloopers, and we're going to include that one. We're doing it at the end. It's happening.
Welcome to the Agent Bridge podcast.
I wasn't ready.
All right, here we go.
We're on video too, remember?
Double book. We'll start over there. I had something ready, and I forgot that last part. Okay.
No, you can record it now.
Okay. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, give us some comments, all of that stuff, so that we can better serve you. Guys, thanks so much for hanging with us, celebrating 25 episodes. That's a big that's a big accomplishment in terms of just from a consistency perspective. So we're proud of that. We're so thankful for you guys following us this far, and we're going to keep going.
Yep.
Okay. All right, everybody, have a great week. We'll see you next time.